how I went from being almost 100% debt free to now having almost $1 million in debt.
$1 million.
Yeah, that really happened. Now, what's even crazier when I look back on what my goals were. So when anytime I'm doing my goals, I'll do my 90-day goals and my 1-year goals and my 3-year goals. And looking back, and one of my 3-year goals was to pay off our mortgage, to be completely debt-free, which is crazy because at the time in our life, we were living in our dream home. Like, it was our dream home. We had the big house, we had the pool, we had the great neighborhood, awesome community. Like, we thought that was our forever home. But as they say, nothing lasts forever.
Forever, forever, ever, forever, ever.
So our forever home was only our dream home for another year or two before we finally made the move to Nashville, which has been almost 4 years to this day at the time of this recording. But when we made that decision to move, like, we knew that the house that we lived in, if we wanted something that big here in the Nashville area, we would not be able to pay the same amount. We'd have to pay probably at least 3 times, if not 4 times the amount. So when we came to that realization that we would have to take on more debt, a bigger mortgage to make the move, I can only hear Dave Ramsey and what he had to say.
This is stupid.
And that definitely proved to be the case. When we started looking at different properties all around Nashville, we started looking at homes that were 3 times as much. So we looked at homes that were over $1 million, some that were $2 million at the time. Like, we just didn't have the financial resources to get that. But then we found the home that we're currently in right now. And sure enough, not only did we more than triple what we had, but yeah, pretty much triple. So right now, it's not exactly $1 million, but we end up taking out a mortgage of $850,000. And that's only because we put a lot of money down. So all in all, we definitely have more than $1 million in this property. So that begs the question, was it worth making the move? Was it worth going from almost completely debt-free to having almost $1 million in debt? Well, that is definitely a good discussion, and one that I wanted to bring to the table today. So today I wanted to share what was my reasoning, what was my rationale, and why we moved. Because you might be faced with the same decision where maybe you need to make a move and you don't know if it's the right thing. So what I'm going to share today, what are the 5 reasons why we moved and why we went from being almost debt-free to having almost $1 million in debt. So let's find out what those reasons are right now. All right, so let's go ahead and break down, like, why did the move happen? I know that I somewhat alluded to some of these, in this introduction, but the first one, the first major reason why we moved had to do with an airport, or should I say lack thereof. Where we lived in Illinois, we were about 2 hours and almost 2.5 hours to the St. Louis airport. And that was the closest airport to us. We also had access to the Nashville airport, funny enough, where we live now. The Nashville airport was about 3 hours from us. So driving to the St. Louis airport was just made the most sense. And the more we did it, anytime I had to travel, anytime we went on family vacations, that was one of the hard things, was you'd have to load up the car, drive 2+ hours, then get to the airport, and then travel. And with kids, we did it, but man, it just made it that much more difficult, especially whenever we got home after a long trip. And then you get off the airport, you get your baggage, you go to your car, and then you have a 2-hour+ drive home. So when we started thinking about where we wanted to live, we wanted to be closer to an airport, especially with thinking that eventually our kids are going to be older. We want them to come visit us. And if they have to fly in fly into St. Louis, and either we have to go pick them up, we have to pay for a vehicle to go get them. There was like a transportation that sometimes we would use, like if family were to come visit, or if they had to rent a car. We just felt like there was so many obstacles that would make it that much more difficult for them to come visit us. So we thought, man, let's move somewhere that is just easier access. And that's where Nashville just really made a lot of sense. You know, where we live right now, the airport is about 30 minutes, 35 minutes, you know, without traffic. And one of my favorite stories after moving here, I had to fly. It was a Sunday afternoon flight. This was pre-COVID, so you know there was plenty of people on the road. And me leaving my front door, driving to the Nashville airport, getting through security, which I do have a TSA pre-check, so I don't have to take my shoes off and all that stuff. But leaving my front door, getting through TSA, I was able to do that in about 45 minutes. Like, that was insane. And that was like, yes, this is why we moved. Now, if we want to travel, it's just a very, very short drive. So that is the first reason.
Yeah, great.
Okay, what about reason number 2? This one was a hard one. You know, my wife was born in Southern Illinois. Like, that's where she had lived her entire life. I was born on the West Coast, born in LA. So I predominantly called the Midwest, I called Southern Illinois home. But the second reason why we left was where we lived was a dying area. The job market just kept getting worse. Obviously, maybe you hear a lot about people exiting California right now, and many of those are moving to Nashville. For those that live in Illinois, you understand, you know, Illinois has some of the same challenges that, you know, California has. So you have a lot of people just haven't been happy with how the state of Illinois has been operating. And I've kind of forgot that until we go back to visit, and I just hear, you know, people complaining about Illinois and how much it costs to live there. And funny enough, we actually pay more taxes. We pay more property tax on our home back in Illinois, which was smaller than our home here in Tennessee. And not only did we pay more taxes, it was almost twice as much. And that's not even talking about the state tax, you know, which we don't have here in Tennessee. So there were so many reasons just living in a dying area. When we looked at the university, you know, which I absolutely love, both my wife and I, we are alums of SIU Carbondale, Salukis for life. Like, we love that university, but man, they have struggled with their enrollment. You know, they made a few bad hires over the years, and for I think 5 or 6 consecutive years, they saw their enrollment drop to almost more than half than when it was at its peak. And when we started thinking about, once again, with our kids, you know, is this where we want them to be? Is this where they want them to call home? Is this where that we want them, you know, to raise their family? And, you know, we just believed that that wasn't a good area. Once again, no jobs. We're seeing drop in enrollment. We saw crime rate just increasing, you know, the time that we lived there, where there were certain areas where we used to hang out all the time that just didn't feel as safe, and we didn't want our kids to just be a part of that. So looking at different places where we could move, you know, the Nashville area, once again, you talk about this is not a dying area. You know, we're seeing massive people move here, which is you know, a blessing and a curse, but opportunities, not to mention the fact there are tons of universities where if they don't want to move that far, you know, if they want to call this home, like where we live now, like it's different because there's so many different opportunities. There's so many different jobs. It's not where they have to, quote unquote, settle for a job that maybe they're not super excited about, but that's the only thing that the area offered. And we just saw that with a lot of acquaintances, a lot of family members, a lot of friends, where they wanted to do more, they wanted better jobs, but there just wasn't a lot there, you know, so they took the best job that they felt was, you know, best for them and their family, which I totally respect. But once you get a chance to take yourself out of that situation and expose yourself to new jobs, new opportunities, which we are seeing here. That just gave us validation of why it was a good move to get out. The third reason why we moved, and this is one that I don't talk about a lot publicly. It is one that we are still in the middle of, trying to, figure out the best solution. We definitely have made a ton of progress, but my youngest son, he struggles with an attachment disorder. It could be called many different things. There was a point in our life, in our family life, where we had no idea what was going on. He had these outbursts that many parents may think, oh, he was just having a tantrum. We are fully aware of what a tantrum is. This wasn't a tantrum. These were rage-filled episodes that would last for 30 to 45 minutes and were occurring two to three times every single day. And it got to the point where we couldn't do family vacations. We couldn't do normal family activities. So we began a process of going to different child therapists back in the Illinois area. And after visiting, I think it was at least 3, onto the 4th one, and really making zero progress, it was like, man, we got to figure something else out. And that's when we realized that this area, Illinois, where we used to live, just didn't have the skilled type professionals that we needed for his case. It was definitely a unique case. I mean, and we figured this out after going, as I mentioned, to 3 different child therapists, including his pediatrician, where we tried all these different things and we were making zero progress. And it was the point where we were utterly hopeless because we just were not making any progress. Like, we think we would figure something out and realize, no, we hadn't. So shortly after moving to the Nashville area, we actually got connected with a child therapist. And after just a few meetings, we learned more from her than we did in the past 3 therapists that we met with. So it was just like, oh, thank goodness, because I mean, we once again just felt like we were going nowhere. And after we moved here, like it's as I mentioned, it's still an ongoing struggle. We're still learning, like it's still hard, but I'm proud to say that, we have had normal family activities. Like, we just got back from a family vacation to the Dominican. This was something that we hadn't gone on a family vacation out of the country in over 6 years. And that was because that vacation was super hard based off of some of the struggles that we were dealing with. So moving here was a blessing. And that was one of the reasons that we moved, because we knew that we needed to get our son help. And also, as a family, as parents, like, we needed help so that we could be the best parents that we could be. So that was the third reason that we moved. Okay, reason number 4. This was, I won't say the most exciting reason, but another very important reason why we made the move. And that was transitioning my business. So at this time, like, I am still a financial planner. I've got my own wealth management firm, which was called Alliance Wealth Management. And I had built my financial planning business predominantly there in that Illinois area. I had a brick and mortar office. Most everybody knew me. Not everybody knew me. What I'm trying to say is that for anybody that knew me, predominantly knew me as the financial planner. Most people didn't know that I had a blog, or if they did, they knew that, I'm not saying, many people didn't even know I made money from the blog. And for those that did, they had no idea how much money I was making. And for those that, and I didn't even share this because, with the average salary in that area being probably in that like $50,000, actually probably more like 40,000. But let's just say, if you were making anywhere $60,000 to $90,000, like you were making good income. And in the last couple of years that I lived there, my website was making at least that. And at some point, 2 to 3 times that amount, 4 times the amount, actually. No, that didn't happen until Nashville. So let's just say 2 to 3 times that. And I was making that per month. And it was just, it was just hard to even share that with a lot of people because it was just, I don't know. It's like, that's why I had mastermind groups. That's why I had these different coaching programs I was in that I could, share some of this. But I also knew that I was reaching a point where I didn't want to be a financial planner anymore. I was reaching a point where I knew that the online business, the blog, the YouTube channel, podcasting, anything, all that and above, like I knew that was inevitably going to become the main thing. But it was so hard to remove myself from the title of being a financial planner. And I knew as long as I stayed there, as long as I still lived within 7 miles from my office, that it would be so hard for me to make that transition. And one of the other main reasons why we moved was I wanted to get away from the financial planning practice. I wanted to distance myself. First, I wanted to see, like, I was making great money with the online business, but there is this fear. It's an online business. Is it a real thing? Is it going to disappear overnight? These were all legitimate or irrational fears, depending how you looked at it. But I knew that I had to get away. And after getting away, at the time I'd hired a junior financial advisor who was pretty much taking care of all my clients at that time. That was a big step in letting go. And I can remember it was a day, I don't remember what day it was. I just remember this particular day because there was a client issue. It was a minimal issue, but this particular client didn't want to talk to the junior advisor, didn't want to talk to, my director of client relations. They wanted to talk to me, and I got on the phone and was able to help them out. And what they needed, wasn't that big a deal. It was a big deal to them, and I was happy to help out. But it was something that they didn't need me to do. I had a team of people that were more than qualified to take care of them and assist them when whatever the financial need that was. But I can just remember, I was in the middle of probably doing a video, working on something, and I had to take a break from the thing that I was working on that I really, really wanted to work on, to help this client out. And it just derailed me. It just ruined my productivity, and I was so excited. And then I had to take a minute, and it takes me a while to get going, get motivated, especially when I'm working on a video project. And I remember sharing with my wife, hey, man, this happened. I just, I know it's not a big deal, but it just wrecked my day. And that's when she said, and I'll never forget, then why don't you sell it? And for her to say that, because my wife had even more fear than letting go of the financial planning practice, because, it was still good money, very good money that was coming in. So just to get rid of it, and for her to suggest that was such a big deal. And it's what I needed to hear in that moment. And it gave me the freedom to let go. Anyway, that's actually another podcast video that I'm going to record the process I went into letting go of this. But the key step here that I recognized was I had to move. I had to get away from the financial planning practice, distance myself so that I couldn't pop in the office, so that I wasn't easy access, for my staff or for my clients to contact me. So moving to Nashville, getting away was a big deal. And I'm glad that I did, because what was it? I think after about 2 years of moving here is when I finally sold the practice and moved on. So that was the fourth reason why we moved. Okay, the fifth and final reason why we moved, and this was not just for myself, my wife, my kids. I mean, it was all above. I mean, it was for everybody, and it was more opportunities. And I know that sounds really vague, and I mean, that could happen anywhere you go. I mean, you can make opportunities anywhere you move, but we firmly believed that there were more opportunities for growth in our marriage, in my business, just through networking opportunities with our kids. I mean, I can start naming all these different examples, but I was just thinking just now, like, about my oldest son, who has started to play golf, and he's really good. And he was able to make the golf team when he was in the seventh grade. He could have played when he was in the sixth grade, which is just crazy that he actually had a golf team that he could try out for and make. And he was able to play so much more golf because of that. And this was an opportunity that wasn't available to him, back in Illinois. I already talked about with my son and finding, help for him. It was also with the business, networking with other entrepreneurs in the area. I mean, I already knew that there were a ton of entrepreneurs that lived here in the Nashville area, but it was just crazy how quickly I was able to make connections within the first several months. And I already knew a few people before I moved here, so that definitely helped. And it really became this 7 degrees of separation, like with Kevin Bacon, where I would just meet people just so easily, and just through not even 7 degrees, it was like 1 degree of separation. And let me just give you one example that I just think just totally just embodies the fact of why we moved here. So I have a good friend of mine. His name is David Molnar. He is a photographer, also an online course creator, online educator. And I met him through a guy that had already moved here. Name's Bob Lodick. He owns ctime.com, personal finance blogger. So I already knew these guys and had met David several times just through different conferences I went to. And, so we already had like a pretty good, I won't say friendship, but we knew each other because we'd met each other several times. And I also knew that David was really good friends with Josh Axe, who is the founder of draxe.com. Also, I'm not sure his exact title, but also co-owner in Ancient Nutrition, which is a supplement company. And I was introduced to Dr. Axe, Josh, not in person, but I didn't even know who he was. But Michael Hyatt, who I was in an inner circle with several years ago, told me, hey, you need to look up Josh Axe, Dr. Axe, because you are a financial planner that has this blog, and I know you want to do this full time. Well, you need to look at Josh because he was a chiropractor full time, started his online business, and eventually sold his chiropractic practice to do the online thing full time. So anyway, and I just knew whenever I moved here that eventually I'm going to meet Josh. I know it's going to happen. It's just like a matter of time. And I didn't even push the envelope. I didn't even tell David, hey man, I really want to meet Josh. Couldn't you make an intro? I definitely took the approach of, I'm just going to sit and wait. And whenever God wants us to meet, it's going to happen. So, and then we move into our new house, and there's a spec house next door that's finishing construction. And when I get a chance to finally meet the owner, it's not Josh. It's a guy by the name of Colt, who at the time was the chief operating officer, the COO of, you guessed it, Ancient Nutrition, who is the company that Josh is part owner in. And I'm just thinking, of course you're the COO of Ancient Nutrition. Why wouldn't you be? And Colt and I have become very good friends, and I've got to learn about his business, learn about VC funding. We also play a ton of cornhole together. And over time, I end up meeting, guess what, Josh Axe, and was also in a men's, I won't say mastermind group. It was like a men's, almost like a leadership group that he put on. And I got a chance to meet with him and work with him like close. Got to meet some other amazing people, amazing leaders, amazing men in that group as well. And these were the types of things, the types of opportunities that I knew wouldn't happen in Illinois. And there have been so many of those types of opportunities that have existed because of living here. I mean, just kind of like a fun fact, they don't live here anymore, but Dan from Dan and Shay, those are into country music, they've won several Grammys, and they were our neighbors. They lived a couple doors down. We went on vacation with them. They came to our daughter's birthday party, went to their son's birthday party. And like, that is just like a random example of opportunities that wouldn't happen. My middle son had a basketball game. Actually, it was last week. We go to this place where he's playing, and Luke Combs is there because his son is playing before. And I'm not a big country music fan, so like this isn't like as a big deal to me, but it's just like kind of this crazy thing of the different types of opportunities that exist, all because we moved. And I could probably go on and on about so many other opportunities that have happened, all because we took the risk. And it was a huge risk. And for me to say that it has been all rainbows and butterflies since the move, I mean, there has been plenty of challenges as well. The first 6 months, really the first 3 months, but then the first 6 months of moving here, I mean, it was hard. Like, we missed our family, we missed our support system, our kids, were trying to make this transition. Mommy and daddy were struggling. We had some struggles in our marriage, that we had to get through. And we were able to push through, get through that. And, and we still have challenges, it's still not perfect, but we can look back and see so many amazing things that have happened, all because we moved, all because we listened to the nudge that God gave us several years ago and made this move to Nashville. And we are glad that we did. So I wanted to share this story because you might be in a similar situation that maybe you want to move. Maybe you know that you need to make a change, but you're scared to make a change. Well, I just want to put it out there. We were scared to make a change as well. And we didn't make that decision overnight. It was one that we spent a lot of time having plenty of conversations, having plenty of prayer on whether this was the right thing. And gratefully that we listened, grateful that we made the move. And now almost 4 years later, it has been by far one of the best decisions that we have made for our family. All right, y'all. Hope you enjoyed this story. Hope you enjoyed some of the things I've shared. If you did, you know what to do. As always, this is Jeff Rose reminding you that it's your money, it's your life, and only you can make it awesome. Until next time, peace.